Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is day 200, September the 22nd, 2017. Fun Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Yeah, well, day 200, that's kind of like a milestone, isn't it? Kind of like day 100, day 200, day 300. Milestones. We love milestones. Hell of a lot better than gallstones. Not that I've ever passed one. Don't even know why I started the video this way, but let's roll with it. Okay, the first thing I want to do before I get to the TowerGate breaking news for the day is I want to make a comment to one of my favorite YouTubers, Stix Hexenheimer 666. Certainly one of my favorite YouTubers. He's awesome. I've been a subscriber for over a year, watch hundreds of his videos, and always enjoy getting Stix's take on just about anything, because he has got a take on everything, and it's always well informed and a viewpoint that it's really unique, different from anyone else, and that's why I enjoy Stix. So he's doing a video the other day, and I think he's just having a little bit of fun, but he's questioning what in the world is Hillary doing. She's writing this book. She's got this scorched earth policy that she's clinging to. She's attacking everybody, her own party, just everyone, and just saying the craziest stuff, that shows that she's so out of touch with just common people. She's just really out of touch is what we really have going on here. So I just wanted to comment back to Stix and tell him what I think is actually up with the Rotten Reverend. Now, I refer to the Rotten Reverend, Hillary Clinton, as the Rotten Reverend because, of course, she mentioned a few weeks back that she had always wanted to minister the gospel, and she loves reading the scriptures, and that she had considered or may be considering becoming an ordained minister. That's right, I'm not joking. Go back and check the video. It's absolutely true. But now Stix refers to her as Hydrogen Hillary because of all her warmongering during the campaign. So whether it's Hydrogen Hillary or the Rotten Reverend Hydrogen Hillary, whatever it is, here are my thoughts on exactly, to your question, Stix, what is the Rotten Reverend Hydrogen Hillary doing? Well, they say that there are 5 stages to grief. You have denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Well, it appears in the case of the Rotten Reverend Hydrogen Hillary that she has never gotten past that first stage of denial. She is still in denial. It's been 10 months. She's still in denial. Most people pass through the denial stage in a matter of hours, maybe a couple of days, maybe at the most a few weeks. 10 months down the road, Hillary is still clinging on to denial. She cannot accept it, cannot let it go. But there's some other things working here. We just learned that the Rotten Reverend, through her campaign filings, we found out that she transferred about $800,000 of her 2016 campaign money that was left over, which she probably should have spent in Michigan and Wisconsin on some plane fare or something. She should have showed up, but she didn't. What she did, though, is she took about this amount of money and she has made contributions to about a half a dozen different groups that are what she refers to as part of the resistance, including Black Lives Matter and Antifa, radical left-wing progressive commie groups. What is amazing and what shows you that she is completely out of touch with reality is that these groups that she's giving this money to, 800 grand, these are groups who are not supporters of hers at all. She thinks in her mind, her twisted mind, her confused mind, her mind that refuses to accept reality, she believes that just because that they're opposed to Trump and people on the right, that they must automatically be supporters of hers. The fact of the matter is, all these resistance groups, especially Antifa and Black Lives Matter, despise the Rotten Reverend Hydrogen Hillary. They can't stand her. She's given all this money to these people because she thinks that they're on her team. They're not on her team. They despise the rotten Reverend Hydrogen Hillary. But she's clearly in a case of denial. But keep in mind, on the bigger picture sticks, the deep state coup that's now underway, that has been underway and continues. We have the Mueller, Uncle Bob, doing his investigation. And at the end of his investigation, we know one thing he'll find for sure. He will find that Russia was meddling in our elections. Now, he may be able to drag Manafort through the legal process. He might be able to sling a few arrows here and there, but for the most part, the most important thing to take away from the Uncle Bob investigation and his Hillary Clinton donor posse, the thing to take away is that he's going to come out and invigorate, support the fake Russian narrative that the Russians hacked the elections and that they tried to overturn the election, they were involved in the election. He'll tell you they haven't found the exact proof that ties Trump and his team to Russia, but there's a lot of things in there. But they are sure that the Russians interfered in the 2016 elections. Now, the rotten Reverend, working with her good deep state friend, Mr. Mueller, and all of their other friends, their long-term plan here all along is simply to now, some people say it's because she wants to contest the election. And now, it wouldn't be Hillary contesting the election. Remember, these are the Clintons. This is how they play ball. Certainly, what she's looking for is for Uncle Bob to come out and say, yeah, the Russians were all involved in the election, this and that and the other thing. In which case, on her behalf, a lot of far left-wing liberal lawyers will then begin filing many, many lawsuits to challenge the election. So when Hillary says, well, I should challenge the election, then she comes out and says, no, I wouldn't challenge the election, or what have you. No. Of course not. That's not how the Clintons play ball. She will know for a fact that these crazy left-wing progressive lawyers and law professors will come out and immediately start filing all sorts of legal challenges to the election. And this is what Hillary wants. Hillary would like to see blood in the streets. Hillary would like to see massive civil unrest. Hillary wants to see the entire country turned upside down and made just as miserable as she is. She can't stand that people are going on with their lives. She can't stand that the economy is doing well. She can't stand all the good things that are happening. She wants everyone to be as wicked, as evil as she is. She wants everyone to be as sad and angry and frustrated as she is. That's what she wants. She just wants to stir up a shitstorm, and she wants everyone else to be just as miserable as her. She knows that all these lemmings that follow this crazy Russian conspiracy stuff will come out and try to throw many, many challenges to the election. And the whole point of that being, they know they won't be successful, but they want to continue to delegitimize Trump and his presidency. That's what it's all about, to delegitimize Trump and his presidency. That is basically the whole game plan. I don't even think Hydrogen Hillary and all of her crazy friends believe they're actually going to overturn the election or anything like that, or that they're even going to find any evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. I don't even think they believe that. But what they want, like I say, is to just have to have the country just embroiled and immersed in a lot of chaos and a lot of, civil unrest and activism and all sorts of protests and all these sorts of things, just upheaval, misery, and all this sort of stuff. This is what she wants. This is what Hillary wants. This is what will make her feel good. She wants to see everyone else as miserable and suffering, as miserable as she is and suffering like she is. That's what she really wants. And she's hoping Uncle Bob and the Hillary donor posse are going to come through for her, along with all those crazies that still buy into the insane Russian narrative, which has been turned on its head, by the way. if most of you have been paying attention, which I know most of you who tune into this channel have been. So anyway, that's my thoughts on what the Rotten Reverend Hydrogen Hillary is really up to. Just stirring up the shit. That's basically it. To make her feel better. You know, it's like some people aren't happy unless they're miserable. And they get even happier when they can make everyone else around them as miserable as they are. And that's just the simple truth of it. And that's what the Rotten Reverend is all about. And that's what her little act is all about. But she is clearly still in the stage of one of dealing with grief, and that is denial. She has never passed stage one. She cannot make it past stage one, and I don't think she ever will. So that's my response about Hydrogen Hillary. Now, let's get to some TowerGate news. Well, we might as well start with where we just left off. The Rotten Reverend on the Stephen Colbert show compared herself to Paul Revere, saying that she was sounding the alarm and that the Russians are coming. The Russians are coming. And she even stated that everybody knows the Russians set out to influence the elections. No, actually just the opposite. Just about everyone accepts that the Russians really had nothing to do with it, and they don't care. We've seen the polls. Even CNN has had to come to grips with the fact that their viewers have told them, stop talking about it. We don't care. No one believes it. And even if they did believe it, they just don't care. Doesn't matter. So this tells you how out of touch that she and a lot of the liberal elites are. And keep in mind, they all suffer from the same mental disorder, liberalism. It is, in fact, Mark Dice is absolutely correct. It's not just a belief system. It is a mental disorder. God forbid you should get it. Holy smoke. Now, the Rotten Reverend, you know, the thing is I was just saying, she's donated all this money to these groups. She's so out of touch that she doesn't even realize, and many of the liberal elites in the Democratic Party don't even realize, many in the media, the liberal media, don't even realize that these leftist progressive groups despise the corporate Democratic Party, despise Hillary, the very face of corporatism, taking all that money from Wall Street banks, didn't want to show us the transcripts of them speeches. She took all that money from the Saudis. She took all that money from everybody, including Russian oligarchs and all the other things. Believe me, these people she's given all this money to are not supporters of hers. They hate her. Many of them are Bernie bros. Many of them are just commies. And this is the truth of the matter. And the way that the Reverend Rotten could verify, in fact, that these people are really not her peeps, is all she needs to do is look out across the country. Do you see millions of people marching in the streets in their poop-stained Chairman Mao uniforms, carrying "I'm with her" signs? No, you don't. Not a one. If all these people really were big supporters of the Rotten Reverend, and they really believed in a lot of the things that she's saying, and they bought into a lot of this crap in her book, they would be out there on the streets protesting on her behalf. But that's not what they're doing. They're out there opposing Trump. They're out there opposing what they consider the right wing. They're out there even opposing the corporate Democratic Party. But what they are not doing is out there protesting in support of the Rotten Reverend. No poop-stained, pantsuit-wearing, Chairman Mao uniformed, regressive leftists holding "I'm with her" signs protesting anywhere. Not a single one. This woman is clearly out of touch with reality, and that's just proof. It's in the pudding. Mad Maxine Waters, you're not going to believe this one. Mad Maxine Waters goes off on an anti-Trump tirade while speaking at the eulogy for the recently deceased actor Dick Gregory. I can't believe that anyone would have even suggested that she speak at a eulogy or anywhere else. let's face it, when the woman opens up her mouth, nothing but insanity comes out. She's nuts. And you got to know that people around her have to know that. And you know, when I look at Maxine Waters, she looks like if James Brown and Steven Tyler could reproduce, the offspring of Steven Tyler and James Brown would look just like Maxine Waters. That's what she looks like to me. Samantha Power unmasked almost 300 people. I believe the official count they're giving is like 262, but it's probably more. Leading up even to the final days before Trump assumed the presidency, Dan Coates and Devin Nunes both stated that Ms. Power's position had no apparent intelligence-related function. Exactly. She was a UN ambassador. She was a political PR person, essentially. And they deal in some policy, but you don't see UN ambassadors getting involved in, domestic, surveillance and unmasking of, especially during a political campaign or anything like that. It's just extraordinary. I mean, it's a stretch even for Susan Rice, but at least she was National Security Advisor. But in the case of Samantha Power, there's really no reason that she should have been involved in anything like that. She is expected to testify sometime in the month of October. It'll be interesting to see what kind of a spin job that she gives us. And let's not forget who she's married to, Cass Sunstein. Cass Sunstein, of course, is the man who wrote 2 books and has been pushing this idea for years that it's in the best interest of the citizens of the United States if their government propagandizes them. He is a big supporter and has been pushing this idea that the government should suppress free speech. They should shut down any anti-government type speech, including videos, YouTube videos, Facebook posts, or anything like that. Shut people down who question the government. It should all be considered conspiracy theories. He believes that the government should have many powerful mind control programs to control the citizens. He's a big-time worshiper of Edward Bernays, the father of modern, I guess you would say, brainwashing, or he kind of wrote the book on mind control and government mind control programs and things like that, and advanced the same idea that people largely will be happier in society if everything that they're told is a lie and they believe it. This is who Samantha Power is married to, the man that pushes this agenda. She's definitely got some questions to answer, and it'll be interesting to see how she spins her way out of that, because there really isn't any reason why someone in her position should have been requesting surveillance or unmasking of anyone, really, let alone people around a presidential candidate. And we still haven't gotten confirmation yet from her or Susan Rice or anyone else, really, because this thing has a while to play out, of whether or not Trump himself was targeted. We know people around him were targeted, which would have got him caught up in the surveillance, but wait till we find out when there was actually targeting on him personally. And we still haven't been told the reasons officially by the people who did this surveillance. We, of course, have a pretty good idea what's going on there, but we haven't. The Congress has not gotten to the point, or there have been no criminal hearings or anything like that, which has actually gotten any representative of the government or anyone like that to come out and give the specific reasons for the warrants that were issued to spy on Trump or Flynn, Carter, and these other people. We know from yesterday's video what the real reason was, but of course they're not going to admit that. I'm still waiting for the phony, false reason that they're going to give us for what they used as probable cause to conduct the surveillance, assuming they even admit to it. Because remember, they conducted this surveillance using a foreign intelligence agency, thinking that it would never be discovered. But we do know about it, and I think it is going to come out. I really do. It's already come out, really. The GCHQ thing came out 3-4 months ago, and we talked about it for about 2 or 3 days. It was in the news, and then it kind of disappeared. But believe me, it's back, and it's as close to official as you can get now. That GCHQ was the one that was tapped into by the CIA and the FBI to actually conduct the surveillance, because it would have been illegal for it to be done without probable cause here in the United States. Now, another thing on this point is that if you remember, a month and a half, 2 months ago, Trey Gowdy, Lindsey Candy Pants Graham, and several other members of Congress all came out and said that they would not reauthorize the FISA court until they got to the bottom of what was going on with all this surveillance. Now, that vote has got to be coming up soon. I know it's certainly before the end of this fourth quarter for the Congress, which ends like 2 weeks before Christmas. They break. So sometime in the next, say, 2 months or so, this vote is going to come up. It'll be interesting to see how many of these people who claimed, like Trey Gowdy, the pit bull, that they would not reauthorize or vote to reauthorize the FISA court unless they got to the bottom of all this. And they're nowhere near the bottom of all this. They're not even skimming the surface of what is all going on with this surveillance and all this sort of stuff. It's not even started, really. So we will see if in fact they keep their word, or if they quietly, in a closed session or sometime after midnight on December the 24th, when everyone's celebrating Christmas Eve or doing other things with the family, they'll sneakily pass have the vote to reauthorize the FISA court. I think that that's the way it's going to go down. But we'll keep watching, and we'll see what happens. It's funny. Okay, yeah, I've already pretty much touched on that. Let's move on. The former director of national intelligence, James Clapper, testified under oath that he was not aware of a FISA warrant being issued to spy on Trump's campaign. That's what he said under oath, that he was not aware of a FISA warrant being issued to spy on Trump's campaign. Of course, we know that Clapper is a liar. The Jim Clapper likes to unwittingly lie constantly, even when he's under oath. Now, the only question here is, what kind of a lie is he telling? Well, there's a couple options here. He says under oath that he was not aware of a FISA warrant. Now, that could mean this. It could mean that he was not aware of there being a FISA warrant, which means that, which is hard to believe because he's the director of national intelligence, and this would have been surveillance on a presidential candidate during an election. Hard to believe that he would know about that as the director of national intelligence. But let's just go with it. Okay, what that would mean is that Comey and Obama illegally spied on Trump or his team without telling Clapper. So he could be telling the truth, which would put the onus on Obama and Comey, because we know the surveillance happened, because we know the unmasking happened. For the unmasking to happen, the surveillance had to happen. So we know the surveillance happened. But he's talking about the fact of whether he knew that there was a FISA warrant issued. He says that he was not aware of that. So if he was not aware of it, and that is the truth, then it can only mean that Comey and Obama did this illegally. It could also mean that he's just flat out lying, and there was a FISA warrant, he knew about it. Or it could mean the other thing that is most likely, which we learned yesterday, which is that he is lying, even though he says there was not a FISA warrant, or he's not aware of a FISA warrant. Of course he would not be aware of a FISA warrant, because there wasn't one. Because the 2 attempts that they made at getting a FISA warrant were both rejected. And after those 2 FISA warrants were rejected, then they turned to a foreign intelligence agency, in this case the UK's GCHQ, to let them do the dirty work. And he would have been aware of that. He would have been aware of that. So really, any way you look at it, Clapper is lying again. They need to bring Jim back to the committee hearing. In fact, they just need to lock him up. I mean, all these guys, I mean, we're talking about having congressional hearings and stuff like that. There is enough evidence that these guys should just be arrested and charged. Plain and simple. Or at the very least, have a special counsel appointed to investigate these things. We're getting to that in just a moment. Now, in fact, let's get to it right now. The House of Representatives has now demanded that the FBI turn over documents related to the fake Trump dossier. Now, we know this has been going on for a while. There have been several deadlines have come and gone, and the FBI has continued to refuse to both turn over documents requested, including the second time with subpoenas, as well as individuals who they want to talk to, and they have these individuals are not being allowed to testify. So the Congress is so frustrated at this point that they have now sent a final letter, and if they don't get the documents requested and they are not able to interview the people they want to interview, then they are going to demand that both Comey, they're going to demand that both the eager beaver, the overachiever, Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, along with his sidekick, Christopher No Shit Sherlock Ray, are going to demand that those 2 appear in a public hearing and answer the question as to what they are hiding and why they will not produce the documents that have been requested by subpoena or allow the witnesses that they have requested to speak to testify. So they're pushing pretty hard, and of course this is on the House side. This would be, I guess, Nunes and Gowdy on the Oversight Committee, but you have the exact same thing going on the Senate side with the Judiciary Committee with Diane Turn In Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America Feinstein, and Chuck Grassley also have reached their limit, and they are also preparing, I understand, subpoenas and things like that. So they're using every tactic, I guess, that they have at their disposal to try to get to the bottom of the dossier. And the questions that they really want to know was who paid for it, who wrote it, who were the sources, who leaked it to BuzzFeed, who spread it throughout the intelligence community. That's what they want to know. So the House has filed a final deadline, turn over the documents, or else you will have to come and testify. Finally, we have a new Politico poll. This is a good one. A new Politico poll shows that in terms of buyer's remorse, in the last election, more voters have buyer's remorse about voting for Hillary than they do about Trump. And this poll from Politico, not exactly a right-wing site, Politico's poll says that 13% of people that voted for the rotten reverend would vote for someone else or not vote at all if given the opportunity again, compared to around 9% for Trump. So 13% to 9%. She always comes up losing, doesn't she? The rotten reverend. Absolutely. Well, my friends, my battery's running low. It is Friday. We all need to get out and then enjoy Friday evening, so I'm going to let you go at this point. I do appreciate you tuning in. TowerGate Day 200, September 22nd, 2017. Thank you so much for tuning in. Saturday's video, I'm working on something a little different, one of these deals, and I've been analyzing a lot and watching a lot about what's going on, and especially with what happened the other day with Pelosi being shouted down at the speech. It's not the first time this has been happening. There's extraordinary things happening on that side, and there's a pretty good analogy that I've been thinking through. So I want to go with that for tomorrow, Saturday evening's video, and unless something major pops up in the news cycle, that's what I'm going to be dealing with on Saturday evening. So thank you so much for tuning in. I do appreciate all you folks comments, thumbs up, and things like that. Appreciate you supporting my channel. You all have a good evening. It's Friday night. Go out and have some fun, okay? Be safe. My dad used to tell me, be good. If you can't be good, be careful. See you guys. Bye.